Oh, they live in Greenwich.
And Rose is going back to Spain.
Oh, wow. We'll have to talk.
322.
I haven't been back to Jersey.
You were going to go.
I was going to go in 2020, but way ahead. And I need to use up my airlift money. My ass, my non-retired ass is having trouble. Well, sometimes it's just, no, it's just, it's a process now. A bunch of stuff, and I didn't manage to take when I manifest, they should have, because too many of us, so no way would even.
I want it in writing.
Oh yeah.
Sealed it.
Just kidnap me or something.
I will.
Or force me to make a big list with you.
The other day, when I retired, I thought I was all set. Assuming I wouldn't have been broke Social Security until 65. I went from no debt to $6,000 because everything is more expensive.
Right.
I
I mean,
worked
it is
so
financial.
hard. It's my insurance, my real estate taxes, my some other expenses. Plus, I went to Germany twice last year. I went planned trip for 2 months over holidays and stayed a month in Spain and Rose. And then it was on that trip that we ended up at
What is
Mara, his wife.
Mara?
And they had a baby named
Mara.
Mara.
Is she, where is she from?
She's from Colorado.
So neither of you.
No, they met as undergrads at Washington, and then they lived together. They've been
Mara's
together.
last name is?
McIntyre.
So Mara is not the girlfriend I used to know at Sacred Hearts.
That's right.
I know.
Yeah, so they've been together since, so Joe's 32, and they got together with Mara.
Oh yeah, because I met her.
Yeah, that's right. Same one. So she had their baby Francis. They always come after. And you know what? Oh, wait for Paige to come back.
Oh,
Okay, we have a respectable.
yeah, but I want her to be at the piano before Elaine starts to talk.
That would be good.
We're just making visible. Hello, everybody. Good morning. Happy Labor Day weekend. Welcome to our service from the Unitarian Society of Northampton and Florence. I'm Elaine Apthorpe. I'm a member of the Worship Committee, Coordinating Council, and Choir. If you're new or returning after time away, we're glad to see you. We're glad to see everyone. Please feel free to fill out a blue welcome card, which you can find by behind in front of your pew, and you put an offering plate later in the service. There's a link to an online version of it in the chat. We'll put you on our email list so you can receive information about all that we do. We strive to be a congregation that welcomes people of all ages, races, religious beliefs, backgrounds, sexual orientations, gender identities, and abilities. We belong to the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, and we are guided and inspired by its values and principles. Our values and principles move us to remember that those of us in the Pioneer Valley live on unceded homeland of the Pecumtuck, Nonotuck, and Western Nipmuc peoples. We acknowledge our responsibility to confront the legacies of dispossession and systemic racism that are a part of our collective history, and we affirm and celebrate the many legacies that inspire us. We have drawing materials and other ways to occupy hands on the tables and back. Restrooms are downstairs and reach through one of these doors. You can either take the stairs or an elevator and return the same way. Today, the worship committee continues its tradition of lay-led summer services. This is a very, very special service that Sarah Metcalf puts together for us each year. It takes a village to put together a hybrid service like this, and volunteers are all around you, here and online. We thank you all. We're here to celebrate, to reflect, and support one another. It's good to be together.
Songs I left tattoos in The opening words are a haiku by Basho. The cry of the cicada gives us no sign that presently it will die. Please rise for the words of the chalice lighting and speak them with me. We light our chalice as a beacon of hope, a sign of our quest for truth and meaning. We light our chalice as a beacon of love in celebration of the life we share together. And we'll remain standing for hymn number 1, number 322. Thanks be for these. We'll sing verses 1 through 3. Everything okay sound-wise? Is it?
Yes, we're okay.
Okay, good.
The battery's on.
We have to announce it? Oh, yeah.
Now it's time for us to greet one another. If you're on Zoom, you're invited to turn on your videos, wave, and say hello in the chat. It's helpful to switch to gallery view. Those in the Great Hall, turn around and wave to those online.
So nice to see Dana here.
Is Dana here?
Yes, she is.
Where?
Right down
Oh
there.
my God.
Hello, Eleanor. Paul Smith. Phoebe, welcome. Bill Dime and Ricky Bennett. Lillian. Go. Claire. Oh,
We have rehabbed our sound.
Huh?
We have rehabbed our sound.
I think the sound is fine. I think it'll be fine.
As you know, you want people to stop talking very loud.
I like people to have a chance to talk to each other,
Yeah.
but pretty soon we should stop talking. Anytime now.
Okay.
Let's see. Here's my.
It's it's been good to see everyone. Please remember on Zoom to turn off your videos.
Good morning. Thanks for coming to our poetry service, which traditionally closes out our lay-led summer gatherings. Thanks to everyone taking a role this morning. Our wonderful guest musician is Paige Graham. My fellow readers are Joanna Brown, Naomi Clayman, and Janet Spongberg. Elaine, of course, has kindly shepherded me through my usual panicked efforts to get everything assembled by the deadline, and many other people are handling the crucial Zoom technicalities. I'm old enough to remember a time when there was no Zoom, and aren't so many of us. And it's been a bit of a shock to realize I've been putting these services together for 16 years now. They've come to take a certain form, organized around some spacious theme, the natural world perhaps, or money, or humor, or music. And I cast a wide net for poems. This year I was thinking vaguely about transition or change. But this year is different for me because my daughter Chloe died 6 months ago, and I am living in an altered state. That altered state has become, in a sense, my subject. It mingles grief and gratitude, the painful and the painfully beautiful, the personal and the universal, a kind of heightened awareness. I can't let it go, and I don't know when, if ever, it will let go of me. For the time being, it's changed the way I read poetry. And so it has changed the content of this service. Ever since she went off to college, I'd given Chloe a subscription to the New Yorker. I've read it all my life, and Chloe pretty much read it all of hers. Sometimes I carelessly allowed her subscription to lapse, and she'd quickly complain, and I'd quickly renew it. That happened for the last time in January. I don't know whether those final issues reached her before she died. In her apartment in Kawasaki, we found tall stacks of New Yorkers by her bedside. Back at home over the past 6 months, my own New Yorkers piled up on the kitchen table. I might peek into a new issue, but I was overwhelmed with sadness that these were no longer things she and I were both reading. I knew they were going to have to move to the recycling bin finally, but first, I decided I would read all the poems. I don't even know why. Often I don't like New Yorker poems. They strike me as dry. But I began to go through them, March, April, May. And somehow in this altered state of grief, I found many, many poems that seemed to me deep and wonderful and perfectly matched to my topic. June, July, August. More poems that felt like exactly what I was looking for. But of course, my subject is mortality itself, the great lens we are always looking through. So for this service, I have chosen poems that are largely drawn from these magazines, the ones Chloe will never read. In a way, it is a very curated collection, first by the New Yorker's poetry editor, Kevin Young, and then by me. But in a way, it's random, arbitrary. The meaning for me is that here are the stones I've picked up from the barren beach, found objects, and somehow each one feels to me profound as a rune. The first set we'll read are the poems most particularly about death. Laundry is about a 2-year-old girl who is very much alive, but her mother knows how threatening the world is into which she's been born. In the other poems in this set, people have died, and the poets are their survivors. The last is a poem I wrote only days ago. Although I titled it Kurue, which was the name Chloe used in Japan, it isn't really about her. It's about the altered state, the altering state, a place I know many of you will recognize. I have found it to be a place of deep meaning. This is Laundry by Ellen Bass from The New Yorker of May 6th, 2024. The baby's dragged the sheets to the kitchen, and now she's stuffing them in the washer, one hand lifting a wad of yellow cotton, the other reaching down for more and more. Breathing heavy, she's feeding vast swaths by the armful, bent halfway into the mouth of the machine, a strip of skin exposed where her shirt's ridden up, an edge of diaper sticking out of her pants. Who can watch a child and not feel fear like static in the background or a tinnitus you try to ignore? This morning in the Times, I saw the galaxy LIDA 2046648, each spiral arm distinct and bright against the dark ink. Light from 1 billion years ago, just as the first multicellular life emerged on Earth. What are the not quite 2 years of this intent creature in the sweep of time? Her quadriceps and scapula, the alveoli of her lungs, the 27 bones of her hand that evolved from the fins of an ancient fish, and her scribbly hair sticking up from her first ponytail. When she was in her mother's body, the California fires turned the air a smoky topaz, and the sun glowed orange on the kitchen wall. Last month, the floodwaters rose and seeped under the door. Still, there must be time for this, to watch her. Hands deep into the doing, she's wedded to the things of this world. When she stands, her sleeve slips down, and she pushes it up like any woman at work.
The next poem, Marigold, by Mary Jo Bang, was published in The New Yorker June 3rd, 2024. I have the sun's eye 1 minute. The next, I'm going to bed with it. Last night, I dreamed of rosemary for remembrance and for a baby born to a woman who lived in an apartment building. In the dream, the dead and I said goodbye at the door. I tried to buy a magazine in a drugstore, but nothing was easy. Nothing is easy when you're shopping for the dead. Maybe toys, I thought, as I passed some boys playing by the side of a road. Maybe a gold key with which to open a coffin lid. I woke to find none of the bodies inside were alive outside of the dream.
This is Morning in the Burned House by Margaret Atwood. In the burned house, I'm eating breakfast. You understand, there is no house, there is no breakfast. Yet here I am. The spoon which was melted scrapes against the bowl, which was melted also. No one else is around. Where have they gone to, brother and sister, mother and father? Off along the shore, perhaps. Their clothes are still on the hangers. Their dishes piled beside the sink, which is beside the wood stove with its grate and sooty kettle. Every detail clear. Tin cup and rippled mirror. The day is bright and songless. The lake is blue. The forest watchful. In the east, a bank of cloud rises up silently like dark bread. I can see the swirls in the oilcloth. I can see the flaws in the glass, those flares where the sun hits them. I can't see my own arms and legs, or know if this is a trap or a blessing, finding myself back here, where everything in this house has long been over, kettle and mirror, spoon and bowl, including my own body, including the body I had then, including the body I have now, as I sit at this morning table, alone and happy. Bare child's feet on the scorched floorboards, I can almost see. In my burning clothes, the thin green shorts and grubby yellow t-shirt, holding my cindery, non-existent, radiant flesh, incandescent.
This next untitled poem is by Nasser Rabah, translated from the Arabic by the Brooklyn Translation Collective, and was published in the New Yorker on March 25th of this year. And a day goes by, and tanks, and the sky a festival of kids flying kites, and blood flowed behind a panting car. And a day goes by, and the planes, and the tent of the displaced makes a bet with time. Winter is late, and a day goes by, and the snipers, and the market itself has no salt. So I said, no worries, the merchants have plenty of sadness. And a day goes by, and artillery. But my neighbor's funeral passes along slowly. Why rush at a time like this? And a day goes by, and the newscasts, and when evening came, it was a bit joyous to find us all there with none missing, except the house.
Kurwe. Mornings, I still wake nameless in the strange room of now, not knowing what year this is or whose house. There's been a song. I lose it to the gray noise of a sky distantly harrowed by jets. The motion of flight is still in my body, the weight and panic. There was something I needed urgently to pack. I looked for it everywhere. I ransacked my childhood closet. I called and called the cat. But it's no use. I do know that. Panic arrived too late when the most terrible thing had already happened. I no longer have a cat. Strange to have encountered the long-forgotten bird feather collection in its clean white box. Robins and blue jays mostly, and one huge gleaming black crow feather laid across all the rest. But sleep is sleepless. There is no moment of my life her death does not revise.
This house of light and love stands around us now because those who came before us had a dream and a vision. This community exists today because those who came before us lived a life larger than their own. It is for us to keep faith with them. It is for us to keep faith with the future. Our morning offering will now be given and gratefully accepted.
The second set of poems I've chosen for today, I think of as being about the phenomenology of being. Not only our direct sensory experience of eating food or breathing in the scent of wood smoke or marveling at the brilliant light that reflects off everything in Iceland, but also the larger senses that emerge from these concrete things, how what hasn't happened yet and what has already happened are all of a piece, how each of us is embedded in the world and all of human history. A non-poem I stopped to read in my trip through my recent New Yorkers was a piece by Adam Gopnik about the Canadian philosopher Charles Taylor in the book he's just published at age 92, entitled Cosmic Connections, Poetry in the Age of Disenchantment. Taylor argues that where our shared assumptions about humanity's place in a universe ordained by an omnipotent divine spirit have fallen apart, we can still enchant ourselves with music and poetry. There, we can still feel all that logic cannot describe and that reason cannot account for. In fact, he insists we must do this to maintain the bonds essential to civilization. All these poems, I think, align with that idea.
The next poem, Eat, by Joy Harjo, was published in the New Yorker on March 4th, 2024. Grasshoppers devour the sunflowers petal by petal to raggedy yellow flags. Squash blossoms of small suns, blessed by dewdrops, flare beauty in the morning until an army of squash bugs land and eat and drag their bellies from the carnage. Field mice chew their way into the house. They eat anything sweet, and they leave their pebbled shit in staggered lines to the closet door. Hungry tree frogs cling to the screen. Their curled tongues catch anything with wings driven to the light. We find a snake hidden on the porch. There are rumors in the yard of fat mice frolicking there. The night is swallowing daylight. We sit down to eat.
The next poem is Invitation by David Halpern and was published in the New Yorker March 11th of this year. Should we take a trip? Find a room in the woods with a fireplace, the scent of dry wood on fire, of pine, beyond the room where we could be falling asleep, entangled. There might be a wind that breathes in the tree scent to the bed where, under the blankets, we could be assembling something or disassembling something else, placing some disassembled pieces back together with memories glue. The weather is only the weather, and like us, resembles the mood that blow through us, that carry us. We could be here in a flickering light, or somewhere we once were, where the wood was damp and the smoke off that wood carried a heavy fragrance, unlike the pale and light eventual smoke off wood drying now, imagined and unignited. Did we ever discuss distance? Was there a thought about what was yet to come while looking back? A road snaking both ahead and subtracting back to what hasn't arrived? We could be there in the smoke of burning trees. We could be planning to travel to a room filled with the smoke, scent of what is almost here.
This poem is called After I Came Back from Iceland. It's by Sheena Pugh. After I came back from Iceland, I couldn't stop talking. It was the light, you see, the light and the air. I tried to put it into poems even, but you couldn't write the waterfall on White River, blinding and glacial, nor the clean toy town with the resplendent harbor for its glass. You couldn't write how the black lava shone, nor how the outlines of the bright red roofs cut the sky sharp as a knife, how breathing was like drinking cold water. When I got back to Heathrow and walked out into Reading, I damn near choked on the warm, gritty stuff I'd called air. Also, on the conjecture that we'd all settle for second best once we'd forgotten there was something more.
This poem is You Belong to the World by Carrie Fountain. It was published in the February 12th and 19th issue of the New Yorker. It's possible that Chloe saw this one. You belong to the world, as do your children, as does your husband. It's strange even now to understand that you are a mother and a wife, that these gifts were given to you and that you received them, fond as you've always been of declining invitations. You belong to the world. The hands that put a peach tree into the earth exactly where the last one died in the freeze belong to the world and will someday feed it again, differently. Your body will become food again for something, just as it did so humorously when you became a mother, hungry beings clamoring at your breast, born as they'd been with the bodily passion for survival that is our kind's one common feature. You belong to the world, animal. Deal with it. Even as the great abstractions come to take you away, the regrets, the distractions, you can, at any second, come back to the world to which you belong, the world you never left, won't ever leave, cells forever, forever going through their changes, as they have been since you were less than anything, simple information born inside your own mother's newborn body, itself made from the stuff your grandmother carried within hers, when, at 12, she packed her belongings and left the Scottish island she'd known, all she'd ever known, on a ship bound for Ellis Island, carrying within her your mother, you, the great human future that dwells now inside the bodies of your children, the young, who, like you, belong to the world.
Please rise as you're willing and able for our next hymn, number 328. I Thought the World in Summer.
apologize for surprising you with an unfamiliar hymn, but what a great poem. I think we should sing that more often. This summer, I read a fascinating book by Sebastian Junger, the author of The Perfect Storm, called In My Time of Dying. Junger experienced a medical emergency, a pancreatic aneurysm, and as he lay bleeding out on the operating table, barely conscious, his dead father came to him and gestured welcomingly. "It's all right, come with me," he said. This is a classic near-death experience, Junger learned, as he did research for his book about it. And for a long time afterward, he lived in a liminal space, alternately overwhelmed with appreciation for his life and in a panic he would lose it. He wrote, "If the ultimate proof of God is existence itself, which many claim to be the case, then a true state of grace may mean dwelling so fully and completely in her present moment that you are still reading your books and singing your songs when the guards come for you at dawn. The past and the future have no tangible reality in our universe. God's creation exists moment by moment or not at all, and our only chance at immortality might lie in experiencing each of these moments as the stunning extravagance they actually are. But how is that even possible?" Our final set of poems ask that question too. The first poem is by Nazim Hikmet, who was born in 1902 in Salonika in the Ottoman Empire. I have borrowed the title of his poem to use as the title of this service. The last poem is by Seamus Heaney, the great Irish poet honored with the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1995. I have read this poem here before, and it lives in my soul. Today, I am particularly struck by the line, "You are neither here nor there, a hurry through which known and strange things pass." I also particularly love that this poem begins with the word "and." On Living by Nazim Hikmet. 1. Living is no laughing matter. You must live with great seriousness, like a squirrel, for example. I mean, without looking for something beyond and above living. I mean, living must be your whole occupation. Living is no laughing matter. You must take it seriously, so much so, and to such a degree that, for example, your hands tied behind your back to the wall, or else in a laboratory in your white coat and safety glasses, you can die for people, even for people whose faces you've never seen, even though you know living is the most real, the most beautiful thing. I mean, you must take living so seriously that even at 70, for example, you'll plant olive trees, and not for your children either, but because although you fear death, you don't believe it, because living, I mean, weighs heavier. 2. Let's say we're seriously ill, need surgery, which is to say we might not get up from the white table. Even though it's impossible not to feel sad about going a little too soon, we'll still laugh at the jokes being told, we'll look out the window to see if it's raining, or still wait anxiously for the latest newscast. Let's say we're at the front, for something worth fighting for, say. There in the first offensive, on that very day, we might fall on our face, dead. We'll know this with a curious anger, but we'll still worry ourselves to death about the outcome of the war, which could last years. Let's say we're in prison and close to 50, and we have 18 more years, say, before the iron doors will open. We'll still live with the outside, with its people and animals, struggle and wind. I mean, with the outside beyond the walls. I mean, however and wherever we are, we must live as though we will never die. 3. This earth will grow cold, a star among stars, and one of the smallest, a gilded mote on blue velvet. I mean this, our great earth. This earth will grow cold one day, not like a block of ice or a dead cloud even, but like an empty walnut, it will roll along in pitch black space. You must grieve for this right now. You have to feel this sorrow now, for the world must be loved this much if you're ever going to say, I lived.
This appeared in the New Yorker, May 27th, 2024. The Call to Worship by Bob Hickok. The possibility that zero gave birth to the universe, that all our somethings came from nothing, the fear of being alone like that, children of chance, orphans down to our atoms, is mother to the idea of God. God is a dress we slip over solitude, a mask for oblivion to wear, a rule giver in a world where no flower or bear cares that we are here or what we do. I prefer a theology of silence, the eschatology of the shrug, a religion of holding my wife's hand for now. But if the industry of the church is what it took to give me bells ringing Sunday mornings, to which crows sometimes rise and deer turn, I'm grateful for a sound that pulls me out of myself, lifts my head toward the sun and clouds, into the up and all, the blue, the on and on of it. When I bend the only knee I have to bend, feel happily small, contingent, and held by what I can't say, short of everything.
This next poem is by Marie Howe, and it was published 6 months ago in the New Yorker on April 1st. It's called The Hymn. It began as an almost inaudible hum, low and long for the solar winds and far dim galaxies. A hymn growing louder for the moon and the sun. A song without words for the snow falling, for snow, conceiving rain, the rivers rushing without shame, the hum turning again higher into a riff of ridges, peaks hard as consonants, summits and praise for the rocky faults and crust and crevices, then down to the roots and rocks and burrows, the lake's skittery surfaces, wells, oceans, breaking waves, the salt deep, the warm bodies moving within it, the cold deep, the deep underneath gleaming, some of us rising as the planet turned into dawn, some lying down as it turned into dark. As each of us rested, another woke. Standing among the cast-off cartons and automobiles, we left the factories and stood in the parking lots, left the subways and stood on sidewalks, in the bright offices, in the cluttered yards, in the farmed fields, in the mud of the shanty towns, breaking into harmonies we'd not known possible, finding the chords as we found our true place, singing in a million keys the human hymn of praise for every something else there is and ever was and will be. The song growing louder and rising. Listen, I too believed it was a dream.
This poem is called This Moment by Evan Boland. A neighborhood at dusk. Things are getting ready to happen out of sight. Stars and moths and rinds slanting around fruit, but not yet. One tree is black, one window is yellow as butter. A woman leans down to catch a child who has run into her arms this moment. Stars rise, moths flutter, apples sweeten in the dark.
Postscript by Seamus Heaney. And sometime make the time to drive out west into County Clare along the flaggy shore in September or October, when the wind and the light are working off each other so that the ocean on one side is wild with foam and glitter, and inland among stones, the surface of a slate-gray lake is lit by the earthed lightning of a flock of swans, their feathers ruffed and ruffling, white on white, their fully grown, headstrong-looking heads tucked or cresting or busy underwater. Useless to think you'll park and capture it more thoroughly. You are neither here nor there, a hurry through which known and strange things pass as big, soft buffetings come at the car sideways and catch the heart off guard and blow it open.
And now we'll rise for our last hymn. Number 326, Let All the Beauty We Have Known.
And the closing words are from a poem called End of Summer by James Richardson, which was published in the New Yorker in the September 3rd and 10th issue of 2007. The sparrows, shattering to nowhere, are the summer waving that here is where it turns and will no longer be walking with you, traveler, who now leave all of this behind, carrying only what it has made of you.
Was fine.